Here comes tournament time and I got my bullshine. I gotta go. Get exposed. Get the boat, man, it's time to go. Grab your baits and fishing poles. Fill the tank and then hit the road. Till you're in that fishing hole. Made up my mind, I'm no weekend warrior, I'm a pro. Fishing professional, and when I'm fishing, man, my goal is to win. I won't stop until I'm in that circle with legends.
We're in the thick of the spring Fastener meeting season, and there's lots to report on that in this edition of Fully Threaded Radio. Of course, you can't talk about spring meetings in the fastener industry without mentioning golf. And we've got the results of the third annual Mel Kirsner Memorial Golf Outing coming up, and also a report on how they played in Atlanta during the recent NFDA meeting there. But for some of us, springtime means fishing, and bass fishing in particular. For more on that, joining us now from Beacon Fasteners and Components, let's say hello to Jiggin' Joe Peplinski, who was on fire last weekend.
Hey, Eric, how's it going? I tell you what, it's been a number of years since I had a good outing from a competitive standpoint. You know, we spend a lot of time on little lakes around here, but to actually put some money down on a tournament and come back with more than you left with, you can't really beat that.
It's a good feeling. It's a good feeling. Well, Joe, I was the net man on the boat, basically, and you stuck a bunch of good ones, and we finished in the money.
Yeah, absolutely. We had, by first hour and a half into the show, we were already looking to upgrade. So that made for a very pleasing event on the water, to say the least.
That's right. So the totals for Team Beacon were, I guess it was second place. We had a little bit over 19 pounds, and that's 6 bass. But the other thing was you stuck the big bass of the event, and that was, 4 pounds, 9 ounces?
Yeah, that one helped our average up to a little over 3 pounds each. So anytime you can put a 3-pound average together, you're not all but guaranteed, but almost guaranteed you're going to be in the money. So we were able to accomplish that, and obviously we're setting our sights on the next one here in the hopefully not so distant future.
Absolutely, and that big bass put a little bit more in the payday pot too.
Yeah, definitely did. We'll do it again for sure.
Well, you were down at the NFDA meeting also in Atlanta. I don't think you were playing golf down there, but Beacon's a relatively new member to the NFDA, isn't it?
That's correct. We're working on our second year with the association, and like any of the associations we join or are members of, we want to take a active role. It's kind of, I can either join and expect results to come to you just by joining, or you can get out and do what the associations are there for, which is to help network and help everybody work together to basically run a better business. And that's what we did last week with a number of customers from across the country, and had a good time and came back with a tremendous amount of action items to be working on in the next few weeks. So we're very, very pleased with the results and the time away from Chicago.
Well, it was great to see you guys down there. Cam was there, and of course the big boss Bob Wegner came down as well. He was pressing the flesh. It was excellent. And also during the main session, Tom Buddenbone brought you guys up there for kind of a welcome to some of the new members. It was you and several others, and he presented you with these breadboard / fraternity paddles. You got one of those, right?
Yeah, we got one, and I think that was a little subliminal message to Cam, because Cam is partnered up with Tom on the membership committee. So I think Tom was politely saying, Cam, let's keep adding some people to the association, and if you don't, you can put 2 and 2 together and you'll see where you're going.
I see. So there was an implied threat there. So there's a method to Tom Buddenbone's madness.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, you do what it takes, right?
Absolutely.
And Beacon is doing what it takes right now, because the recent announcement with your partnership with Pacific Warehouse Sales, that made a big splash.
Yeah, we partnered up with them a little over a month or so ago, and they're helping us tell the Beacon story out west. And, we like to look at what we think are the best of the best, whether it's people to partner with, suppliers, customers, personnel, obviously. We're extremely happy with those folks. And I guess, another way to look at it is, you and I placed at the top of the list in the fishing contest, and the girls placed right at the top of the golf outing. So I guess there's some correlation when you're focused on doing things very, very well. It shows in multiple disciplines.
That's right. As we're going to hear pretty soon, Kelly Lehman was on the winning team, and Team Pacific Warehouse Sales was at the top of the ticket on the Mel Kirsner golf outing. So congratulations go out to them.
Absolutely.
Well, it was great to fish with you, Joe, and I was glad to be on Team Beacon and watch you pitch that jig so effectively that day. And thinking about bass fishing, and there's a term we use. It's when you have a really good day, you say, we really spanked them. Well, maybe that whole NFDA breadboard / fraternity paddle, maybe that was the whole lucky charm, huh? What do you think?
There could be a correlation there, that's for sure. Hey, one thing you may want to throw out here as well to the audience is we're talking about possibly putting together a kind of a Fastener bass contest at one of the upcoming shows. So maybe start priming the pump for that potentially.
I think you're on the right track, and Brian and I were discussing that just this afternoon, Joe. So stay tuned for that, folks, because if you don't see a bass fishing Fastener event sometime in the next year, I'd be surprised.
I'm in.
Think we'll spank them again?
I think we'll give it a good run.
Jiggin' Joe Peplinski, you heard it here first, folks.
Thank you, sir. May I have another? Thank you, sir. May I have another?
It's time for Fully Threaded Radio.
It is Fully Threaded Radio, voice of the FCH Sourcing Network. This is the online fastener talk radio show that discusses all things related to the industrial fastener industry. We have an all-star lineup on today's edition, and we're glad you clicked in with us today. This is Eric Dudas, and I'm joined, as always, by the co-host of Fully Threaded. He's the database guru behind the world's largest online fastener sourcing engine, everyone's favorite fastener supernumerary, Mr. Brian Musker. How you doing, Brian?
Well, thanks. Hi, everybody.
So you catching any fish these days, Bri?
No, I'm the one who stays here and keeps all the system going. You're the one that goes out fishing.
Hey, man, you got a few. I was with you a few weeks ago. You did pretty good.
Right. Yeah, and these little moments where I'm allowed out.
Oh, man. Well, I think we make a pretty good team myself.
What, I stay here and work all the time and you go get around?
It's all about teamwork, and
sorry.
That was impressed upon me again at the NFDA meeting, and we're going to be talking a little bit more about that. But aside from all of the doom and gloom, how's it going, Bri?
It's going good. Good. I've actually been using my iPad, which J.R. Pearl made a note about, to actually make sure that FCH is iPad friendly, and actually it's pretty easy to use on an iPad.
Yes, ever since news splashed across Twitter that you're now the proud owner of a new iPad, I haven't really heard hide nor hair of you. You're actually probably glad that I've been out fishing.
In one way. Actually, I've just been testing through all sorts of parts of the system to make sure it works right in the interface. I mean, the iPad's pretty easy to use. It's the phone that makes the problem in all these things.
Right.
It's really the same, but the interface is so small that you have to completely rethink how to use it.
Well, I'm glad you're on the case, and I think FCH users are going to be big winners because of it.
Yep, I think you're right.
Well, if you've won a contest yet this season or not, you're in the money today because we got a winning lineup for you on today's show, folks. This is episode 45, and we're publishing on May 10th, 2012. The Fastener Distributor Index April survey report is out, and Mike McNulty's Fastener News Report has an extended conversation with BB&T analyst Holden Lewis on that subject today. Holden is fresh off his appearance at the NFDA meeting in Atlanta last week, and I'm sure there are some new listeners to the show today to hear his follow-up. So a special welcome to all of you, too. We've also got a montage of short segments from the NFDA conference featuring Robbie Gilchrist, Don Haggerty, incoming NFDA President Jay Queenin, and more. Fully Threaded is first in conference coverage, folks. Plus, the third annual Mel Kirsner Memorial Golf Outing took place on May 7th, and we have an exclusive interview with the captain of the winning team directly from the clubhouse just after they clinched their win. This was another successful event for the Pac West, and we congratulate everyone who made it happen. Of course, the big news that you're probably all aware of by now is that Vicki Lester was appointed Executive Director of the NFDA, and we'd like to extend our congratulations to her. Vicki will remain with the Pac West as well, and I'm guessing good things are going to come of this.
Yeah, I'm sure Vicki will bring the same renewed interest and invigoration into NFDA that she has into Pac West.
Yep. Well, if this last conference was any indication, you're right, Bri. The title sponsors on today's episode of Fully Threaded Radio are Stealthfast. For service you deserve and people you trust, it's Stealthfast. Hey, for those of you who eagerly await the announcement each year of the color of the world-famous Stealthfast monkeys that they distribute each year at the Vegas show, you won't want to miss Don Haggerty's mini segment coming up in our NFDA montage. So stick around. Our other title sponsor on today's episode is Beacon Fasteners and Components. Beacon Fasteners. Nice threads. Hey, contact us, folks, anytime, and you can do so at the email address ftr@fullythreaded.com. Also, check out our links on our Facebook page. You can also communicate with us that way, but we like to put a few supporting links for each show up there, and you'll probably find that marginally interesting, I'd say.
Only marginally, you reckon? Some of them are very interesting.
Well, I agree. I don't know. Sometimes I wonder, but I think you're right. We're also out there on Twitter, and you can get with us at the handle Fully Threaded. Say, Brett, do you follow politics at all on Twitter?
I can't say I do.
I really got a kick out of the coverage of this last election, the primaries on Tuesday. I mean, it was wall to wall. I have another account that I don't really pay too much attention to Fasteners under, but I do watch politics, and it was just great to see what was happening. Of course, it was a good day if you're a constitutional conservative, and we made a little progress, I'd say.
Just a little. You're right.
Mm-hmm. For one thing, we were able to ditch an old-time warhorse senator, and I think that is a very positive thing.
Yes, that's not necessarily how it was portrayed in popular media.
Oh, of course. Hey, you know, Global Fastener News got into the political arena a little bit too. If you go and look at the Global Fastener News history page, and I tell you, I refer to this from time to time, it's just a treasure trove of great articles. But I noticed that just a couple of days ago, they put up a headline on the GFN website, and they were pointing out that back in 1980, they had a story that was entitled Fastener Outlook for 1981 after the presidential election. And it's a pretty good one. They've got several different companies who were able to go out on a limb and make some predictions. And of course, in those days, you know, right at the end of the Carter years, the economy was pretty bleak.
Yeah. The expectation was almost that it couldn't possibly be any worse. It had to be better.
Yeah, so that's the landslide, which I'm thinking we're going to get again this time around. But, of course, conditions were much different. But you might get a kick out of that over at globalfastenernews.com.
Now, what were you talking about at the top of the show when you were discussing the thing with Tom Buddenbone and these breadboards?
Yes.
Paddles and whatever.
Right. Is it a breadboard or is it a paddle? Well, that was a question that kept coming up through the conference because Tom did this great presentation at the main session, and he was doing, as you know, he's the membership chairman.
Yeah.
And so he was doing his duty as welcoming many of the new members, and he had these little breadboards made with the NFD logo, and the symbolism is that we come together to these conferences to break bread together. And he actually had a pretty funny prop up there. He brought a piece of French bread, and everybody got a big kick out of that. But these breadboards really look like fraternity paddles, and I guess the board was having a little fun with them the night before, and anyway, it was kind of funny, so I figured I'd just play on that a little bit. And then, when Joe and I spanked them at the tournament, how could I resist?
So the reality is the difference between a breadboard and a paddle is simply how you hold it. Is that right?
Well, that and I guess who you whack with.
What you have on it, yeah.
Right. But I tell you, the NFDA Spring Conference was very successful. It was held at a beautiful location. It was the Chateau Elan just outside of Atlanta. And it was a beautiful location. They had a vineyard and a great little vista there, and the facilities were definitely top-notch. And the purpose of the meeting really was for the ESPS sessions, which are the executive meetings. And so all around the hotel and the lobby and the atrium and so forth, they had every half hour rotating groups of fastener companies meeting. It was almost like speed dating for fastener. And, that's what it reminded me of. But to actually watch this firsthand, it was very, very interesting. And I have to imagine that anybody who is not there but is in this business and they could see what they were missing, they would jump right into this, because it looks like a very, very effective tool for networking, for understanding what other companies are doing and that kind of thing.
Yeah, I remember you telling me all about it. It seemed really fascinating.
And, of course, this meeting was also the big news with Vicki taking over there at the NFDA as the executive director. It was also Jay Queenin of Specialty Bolt and Screw. It was his first NFDA event as president, and, of course, outgoing president Matt Ulrich was there. He, of course, had kind of a tough year personally, and boy, he did a great job considering everything. And so he and Jay sort of shared the MC duties at the main session. And there was a brief presentation by representatives from the TFTA, the Taiwan Fastener Trading Association. And they had a little ceremony where they exchanged gifts. The gentleman presenting from the TFTA was Jim Shu. That was good to see. They still have that international component, even though the membership idea has kind of changed.
Right. Yeah, that was all. Yeah, we knew that was going to sort of cause a problem, but this is the world, isn't it?
That's true. And one of the themes is that the board of the NFDA is willing to adapt, and they're willing to try new things. And they've worked out, along with the European group, this global platform for fasteners. And I'm not entirely sure how that's all going to play out and really how it operates, but I'm sure we'll have Jay or some of the other NFDA board members on with us. Kelly Cole had a lot of interesting things to say also about some of the direction that the association might head. And I think there's some good things that are coming.
Now, is there a chance that I can get to one of these meetings, do you think? I mean, you might stay and do some programming and I'll go out. Okay?
Well, we can always kind of angle for an invitation for you, I guess, Bri.
I'll speak to Tom. I'm sure he'll organize something for me.
That's right. It's good to know Tom Buddenbone, folks. For a lot of reasons.
So now remember also you're telling me about the economist who was giving a presentation there. So what was in that?
Yes, and so the economist was Alan Bewley, and he's with ITR Economics. And he's an economist who appears regularly with the NFDA. NFDA members are pretty familiar with him, and he's a powerhouse speaker, I would say. And he did a very, very professional, workmanlike job with his presentation. And without going into too much detail, we'll put his website up on our Facebook page so everybody can go out there and check out his site, which is full of resources and information, by the way. But I guess the kind of the short summary would be that he's expecting sort of moderate growth through 12 through 2013. In 14, they're expecting a small recession, which we should rebound from. We'll see a little bit of inflation beginning to come into the picture. And then in 2019, they're expecting a little bit of a doozy of a recession, sort of like 08, 09. So it's a little hard to understand how they do all of those longer-term forecasts, but apparently they feel pretty confident about these projections. And, well, the NFDA pays good money to hear them.
All right. And can we say that we hope they're wrong?
We can. There were a lot of people that asked a lot of questions about that, and I'm not an economist, so I'm watching this stuff and with great interest, needless to say. Again, I think that Alan's website is definitely something that people should check out if they're interested in following up on that. But hey, this is a great resource that the NFDA offers.
Right.
So the other thing is there was a conversation that came up in the Q&A after his presentation. It had to do with the Chinese beginning to buy oil on the world market using gold. And if you were in on that conversation, if you were at the conference, you might be interested to follow up because Alan did blog on that subject. If you go to his website at itreconomics.com, go to his blog, the May 4th entry addresses that issue. And you had a chance to take a look at that, right, Bri?
Right, yeah. I mean, the summary of his comments are that the total value isn't that great, 30 billion, 35 billion in gold. The more interesting thing is his point that this really represents social selfishness as opposed to, or should we say global selfishness, which is interesting because the two countries which are doing it is China and India.
Yeah, well, you should point out that China and India in June are going to begin to buy oil from Iran in gold, and that's to basically to circumvent the worldwide sanctions against Iran.
Right. And I suppose, if you think about it, both of these countries are ones who have gone against major encouragement or disencouragement from other countries not to build their own atomic bombs. And, of course, they've done so. So I guess there's a degree of comfort among the atomic cabal, I guess. And this is what they're doing, and suiting themselves because I'm sure they're getting cheap oil.
Well, the question really rose because it kind of speaks to one of the assumptions on a lot of these economic projections, which rely very heavily on the price of oil and the international market for oil. And Alan's blog post does not really address any kind of an adjustment based on this new information. But, of course, we're all going to be staying tuned, and if the world begins buying oil using gold, that has big ramifications.
Right. Now, he only says that they're only using India and China and only using gold to buy oil from Iran at the moment. He doesn't mention any other countries.
That's right. Well, we'll keep our eyes peeled.
Right.
But those are the kinds of issues that are being discussed. I mean, you have these ESPS conversations going on. You have these macroeconomic conversations and, a little golf and a little bit of paddling going on, too.
So do you have glow golf there, too?
There was no glow golf, but I do have a report. In the last day of the conference on Friday was supposed to be reserved for a tournament. And as it sounds, and I have an email here from Tom Buddenbone, he reported back, it really didn't come off as well as expected, but part of that, I think, is due to the heavy rains. He said there was pretty good rain on Friday, plus that was followed by steam and 85 degrees. So it gets pretty hot down there in Atlanta. But he said, let's see, but Tom says he was in a threesome that included Matt Ulrich, and they beat Ed McElhon, Skip Gallo, and Mike Lentini by a whopping 1 hole in match play.
Right.
And I guess they decided on lunch was the bet. So it was close, but that was the extent of it. He told me that there was one additional foursome that played kind of a fast round, but it looked like people were getting enough business done and they were getting enough work done at the NFDA this year, and everybody was pretty satisfied with that part of it. So,
yep, sounds like it was a great affair, actually.
Well, it was, and I really appreciate the invitation and the hospitality of the NFDA. In contrast to that, though, Bri, the Pac West was up to their usual shenanigans recently.
I cannot imagine that.
That's right. The Mel Kirsner Memorial Golf Outing took place, and that was on Monday, May 7th. And we have an interview directly from the course that we'll play right now. And just before we do that, I'd like to say, everybody, we really do appreciate you tuning in to Fully Threaded Radio. We're glad that you're listening, and we sure appreciate it every time you tell one of your friends and associates about the podcast.
Yes, we do. And if you have any upcoming events, then I'm available, especially if you don't invite Eric, okay?
Your personal appearances calendar is wide open, huh, Bray?
Right, yeah. I'm looking, it seems to be empty for the next, 365 days.
Oh, come on. Here's our coverage of the Pac West Mel Kirsner Memorial. And as we've been promoting, today was a big day. It was the Mel Kirsner Memorial Golf Tournament, the third annual. And with us now to give us the blow-by-blow there is a member of the winning team. And the winning team this year was headed up by Team Pacific Warehouse Sales with Kelly Lehman on board. Kelly, how are you?
I'm doing great, Eric. How are you?
Outstanding. Well, congratulations on this victory. You were part of the
Thank
winning
you.
team. Who else was with you on the team today?
You know, I had a great team today. We had Ernie O'Wegan, who's been a longtime friend of the families in the fastener industry. We had Jim Moyer, who was from Pencom, and John Reed, who's from our company, Pacific Warehouse Sales.
Well, that was what it took to pull off the victory today, and there was a lot of speculation about this. As you know, Kelly, the big guns from Cal Fasteners, the truckies, were not participating this year. There was a lot of thought that Team Porteous was going to sneak back in there. How did you fare, or how did they fare against you?
Yeah, they didn't fare so well. Unfortunately for them, Tracy, my sister, and I are this is our member course, so we kind of know this like the back of our hand. So we had a little advantage over the rest of the field there.
And so where did Team Porteous actually wind up at the end of the day?
Well, you know what? They came second. They had a good showing. Bob Porteous, Kevin from Ababa, Scott and Kelly Tobin from Bristol Machine. They were about 2 strokes behind us. But they did pretty good out there.
So it was pretty close. So that's great.
Yes,
little
it was.
little excitement there. Actually, up on Twitter, there were a few photos that were posted by Team Porteous. I don't know if you saw that or not yet. You're still at the course. And so we got a little bit of a glimpse into what the scene looked like today. It looked like real high skies and mild temperatures. Can you set that scene a little better for us, Kelly?
Oh, it was beautiful. It's a little foggy this morning, but it cleared up. We had about an 85-degree weather. This Volano Country Club is gorgeous. We're up in the hills, and you have the whole view of the Inland Empire, and it was absolutely gorgeous today.
Now, this is in Chino Hills, California, correct?
Yep, Chino Hills. We are a little about 35 miles east of Los Angeles, kind of by Ontario Airport, so it's just absolutely gorgeous. We call it the Inland Empire, the IE.
Well, you got to like that. Now, I have a special interest in one of the contest holes, and that was hole 4. So Fully Threaded Radio, we were sponsoring the closest to the pin contest there, and I think we had a fabulous prize there. It was $50 and a 30-pack of Busch Light beer.
It was the prize to behold, definitely.
Who wound up taking that victory beer home with them today?
You know, and that number 4 is a tough hole. Those guys had 200 yards to get on that green.
Wow.
And yeah, it was a tough hole. Aaron Dolenmeyer from Long Luck put it pretty close up there, about 11 feet. So that was awesome.
Outstanding. Well, hopefully we'll get a shot of him eventually with that, and we're really looking forward to seeing who won that. So, you know, also getting back to these photos, it looks like the attire at the contest today was a little on the subdued side. No real outrageous clothes or anything that golfers are really famous for. Was this pretty much across the board, or was there anybody that stood out?
Yeah, there was no loud pants or loudmouth pants out here. They were pretty subdued. You know, everyone thinks that us West Coast people are a little crazy, but we're really not.
Well, I guess we can debate that, but in terms of the clothing choices today, I guess I'd have to agree.
Yeah, we were pretty mild.
Any injuries to report, or any other incidents that we should know of?
Yeah, we had a couple. I think Mike Moore from Align Aerospace hit the cart a couple times, a little smash and bash in front of the clubhouse. But that's okay. There was no injuries. This golf course, if anyone gets out here, it's awesome, but it's very hilly, and I'm surprised that no carts went over the cliff. So I give applause to the Pac West members. They did a good job.
Everybody was on their best behavior.
And thank God, yes.
Well, it's an outstanding cause. Of course, this is the Mel Kirsner Memorial, and it's a benefit for his scholarship fund. What did the
Yes.
event raise today, Kelly?
It was awesome. We raised $3,000 for Mel's scholarship. He was just a wonderful person, and it's an honor to be able to raise some money on his behalf. And his son Craig Kirsner was out here, and it was really nice to see him.
Well, that's good to hear. I guess we'll get a full report on some of the details that we might be missing right now on the PacWest website. I'm sure Vicki will take care of that. Just out of curiosity, this is shortly after the big announcement of Vicki taking over at the NFDA, and I'm sure that was a subject that was being discussed out there in the course today.
It was. You know what? We're so proud of her. She's worked so hard for the PacWest members. I'm so thrilled for her that she's going to be helping with the NFDA. She's exhausted. She's been flying a lot. But you know what? She's been just so wonderful to us, and I know she's going to do so great for the NFDA, and we're just so proud of her.
Yeah, I think everybody seems to agree with that, and that was a great announcement to hear, I'll tell you. Well, Kelly, appreciate you joining us. I know it's been a long day for you, and maybe you should hurry up and go catch Aaron. He might have a little bit of that 30-pack left. Who knows?
Oh, yeah. I think he's walking out the door, but I think the 30-pack might be done. Or he already stored it in his trunk for later. I don't know.
Well, once again, the winning team of this year's Mel Kirsner Memorial Golf Contest is Team Pacific Warehouse Sales. Kelly, congratulations. I know Tracy, your sister, was not on the team. She didn't place in the money, but I think that's probably for the better because now you have a little bit of a rivalry. She's going to be coming after you next year.
Oh, yeah. You know what? The thing is, the little sister always beats the big sister. So, you know what? She's going to hit it a little straighter than she has been. So we'll do good next year. She'll do good next year. We'll see. Maybe we'll come out to Chicago and we'll beat the boys from the Midwest.
That's coming up here in just a couple of weeks, and we'd be glad to have you.
So, well, we do have Aaron right here. Do you want to talk to him? Your little prize money for the Busch Light. He's very excited.
Absolutely. I wasn't expecting this. Let's see what Aaron has to say.
He just walked in from the bar. Shocker. Hold on a second.
Hello.
Aaron Dollenmeyer, Eric Dudas here with FTR. How are you?
Good, Eric. How are you doing?
Outstanding. Congratulations on your shooting out there, especially on hole 4.
Hey, the 30-pack is well welcomed here.
Well, glad to hear it. How did you fare the rest of the day?
Let's just say we were up and down. It was a hilly course. How about that?
Good enough. Good enough. Well, hopefully we were able to make the hole 4 that much better for you. And, of course, as we heard, the event brought in $3,000 for the Mel Kirsner scholarship fund, so everybody was a winner.
Right, absolutely. That's what it's all about. And like I said, the 30-pack is well received. I'm trying to pass them out as we speak, and believe it or not, it looks like I might leave with a couple. But no, at the end of the day, man, this is all about the like you said, raising money for a good cause. So
absolutely. Well, we're going to wind her up at this point, and appreciate you joining us, Aaron. And please, my congratulations to Kelly one more time and Team Pacific Warehouse Sales. And we'll be right back with more Fully Threaded Radio.
Once you're in this industry, you're not getting out. Good thing there's Fully Threaded Radio. Talk radio for the fastener industry.
When top quality and outstanding service are at the top of your list in fastener suppliers, turn to Stellfast. Since 1976, Stellfast has grown to become an industry-leading importer and manufacturer of the highest quality industrial fasteners, specialty items, and automotive parts. Our array of facilities across North America and in Asia, along with full quality control labs and ISO 9001-2008 certifications, ensure the highest quality parts, and at Stellfast, they're delivered with undisputed service excellence. We're family-run and dedicated to your success. Our customers have come to depend on the expertise of our staff and the quality of our products. We also offer a wide range of secondary services to meet some of the toughest requirements you might have. Contact Stellfast today through our website at www.stellfast.com and put us to work for you. Stellfast. Service you deserve, people you trust.
It's a screwy world out there, what with outsourcing, celebrity apprentices, crop circles, beavers, gargers, those shorts that are almost pants, and mimes. But when you think about it, saying the world is screwy is just unfair to screws, which ironically are what hold the whole world together. And the finest screws out there are supplied by Beacon Fasteners and Components. We can say that because our products are laboratory tested. Twice. Beacon Fasteners and Components also has the largest inventory in the industry, including thread forming, thread cutting, high-low tapping, SEMS, sheet metal, and our new machine screws. And they're all available RoHS compliant. Give Beacon a call today and one of our knowledgeable sales staff will guide you through the ordering process. Then we'll track your shipment, which is one less screwy little detail for you to worry about. Visit us at beaconfasteners.com. It's a screwy world, but Beacon is on top of it.
It's almost time for the biggest fastener event of the summer. This is Matt DeLauder of SWD Incorporated, current president of the Midwest Fastener Association, inviting you to this year's MWFA Fastener Expo. The show takes place on June 25th at Medina Banquets in Addison, Illinois, just a short drive from O'Hare Airport, right in the heart of the fastener industry. This will be a tabletop show and the largest regional event of its kind this year. For the show, we will have a brief 2-hour workshop, Safeguards Against Ordering Wrong Parts and Minimizing Risks. There will also be a seminar in the afternoon, Sharpen Your Leadership Skills, sponsored by Wi-Fi. After the expo, you'll want to stay around for the annual Fastener Bash for some of the best networking opportunities this year. Also this year, we've added a new event that should be a real blast, 4 holes of glow-in-the-dark golf. I don't think you'll want to miss this. Come and be part of this unique opportunity and play golf at night with some of your best fastener buddies. For the more serious golfers, the 60th annual MWFA Golf Tournament and Awards Dinner will take place the following day, June 26th, at Eaglewood Resort. For more details and registration information on both events, see the MWFA website at www.mwfa.net. That's mwfa.net. Don't miss the MWFA Fastener Expo and Annual Golf Tournament on June 25th and 26th in Addison, Illinois. I'll see you there.
This is Tom Bohr from the Cambridge Corporation. You're listening to Fully Threaded Radio.
Brian and Eric back with you, Fully Threaded, all tournament coverage radio.
Well, almost not quite all tournament. What happened to Joe Truckee and the Truckee Trio?
Yes, I noticed that myself. Well, my friend, you have not been watching Twitter because Joe Truckee, among other things, he's one of our latest fastener people to join in on Twitter, and he announced some time ago, a week back, that he would not be playing, because I did query him on that, and of course we were all anticipating that there would be a real battle, and last year's champions were not participating.
Wow. Did they just decide to give the others a chance?
Well, you only get 140 characters on Twitter, Bryce. So.
Oh, okay, you couldn't really say. Right.
Yeah, I don't really know. We'll have to find out. But, folks, if you're not following Joe, and most of you aren't because he only has 6 followers so far. He's a fastener legend from the West Coast. It's J Truckee SR. That's his Twitter handle. So let's see that number rise.
Right.
And another guy who doesn't give a hoot about Twitter is our friend Holden Lewis of BB&T Capital Markets. And he's coming up next on the Fastener News Report with Mike McNulty to talk about, among other things, the Fastener Distributor Index. So he was with us down in Atlanta at the NFDA conference, and I thought it was great because as I was driving from the Atlanta airport north on 85 to get to the conference, I passed this giant building, and right on top was the big sign, BB&T.
Cool. That's not the one I used in the background of the webpage, is it?
No, it's a different city. I think that one might be at the Richmond location. But, Yeah, it was right there, BB&T, and I was really curious how many NFDAers noted that. I'll tell you one other thing worthy of comment. As I was driving into the conference, I was heading down the highway. I turned on AM 89 or 890 because that's the big talk radio station here in Chicago.
Right.
And so in Atlanta, it's WJTP, at least during the daylight hours. And what an interesting radio experience I had. It turns out that WJTP in Atlanta is the simulcast station for China Radio International.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. And let me tell you, if you have never heard that, it is quite interesting.
So you were ready to like drop everything and move over to Beijing, is that right?
Well, I don't know about that, but they sure do a good job of making everything sound real happy and hunky-dory. And but I tell you, the technical conversations that were going on, it was really, really interesting radio. And before I realized what it was, it caught my attention, and I'm going to be paying a little bit closer attention to that. I'm sure it's streaming somewhere. I haven't looked it up yet, but yeah, that was definitely an eye-opener.
And not quite what you expected, I would think, driving out to a Fastener show.
No. Although, Atlanta's the home for CNN, too, so.
Yeah, the Communist News Network.
So there you have it.
Right.
Well, before we get to the Fastener News Report, let's thank our sponsors once again, and they are Stelfast and Beacon Fasteners and Components.
Thanks, folks.
That's right. And thanks to all of you for tuning in and listening to Fully Threaded Radio. We really do appreciate it. Here's Mike McNulty.
Thanks, Brian and Eric, and greetings to all the Fully Threaded Radio listeners out there. This is Mike McNulty from Fastener Technology International Magazine, bringing you the Fastener News Report, which is sponsored by Volt Industrial Plastics, makers of the world's finest plastic fasteners. 2 upcoming fastener shows are on fire. The Midwest Fastener Show next month is now selling overflow exhibit spaces, and they've added a second shotgun start time for their golf outing. And the Las Vegas Fastener Show this fall is seeing its best start on exhibit sales since 2008. This is good news for anyone who is focused on fasteners and a great way to start off the Fastener News Report. In today's top story, we're going to get the April 2012 results of the Fastener Distributor Index, also known as FDI. In addition, we have some newsmaker headlines from Carpenter Technology, Can-End Furnaces, Computer Insights, Ohio Rod, Circle Bolt and Nut, and the NFDA, as well as a back page story on the teenage workforce. We will get to all of that and the April FDI story right after this.
Volt Industrial Plastics is the source for all your high-quality plastic fastener needs, and customer service is their #1 priority. With almost 1 million fasteners in stock and same-day shipping on stock items, Volt Industrial Plastics carries inventory so you don't have to. Volt manufactures everything in-house from over 125 different materials, and they're proud to say 100% of their products are American-made. And of course, custom tooling and in-house bagging is available. Contact Volt online at www.voltplastics.com. Volt Industrial Plastics, makers of the world's finest plastic fasteners.
For a selection of hundreds of thousands of fasteners, check out your local Fastenal store or Fastenal.com. We can stock domestic or internationally sourced product locally and keep your bin stock filled for you at no additional expense. We are a 9001-2008 certified company that's made a huge investment in quality control so you don't have to. And if you can't find it on our shelf, we can make it for you at the quantity you need at one of our many manufacturing facilities. Learn more by contacting your local Fastenal store or visiting Fastenal.com today.
Mike McNulty.
At the end of last month, BB&T Capital Markets and the FCH Sourcing Network collected and analyzed the latest set of Fastener Distributor Index survey responses. FDI seeks to identify demand, pricing, and outlook trends within the USA fastener industry. To get the April 2012 FDI results, we talked to Holden Lewis of BB&T Capital Markets. Hi, Holden. Thanks for joining us on the Fastener News Report.
Hi, Mike. It's a pleasure as always. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. I understand that the FDI numbers took a slight dip this past month of about 3 to 4%. What can you tell us about the Fastener Distributor Index in April?
I would say that is an accurate characterization, though I would probably argue that this might be one of those teaching moments on the FDI. If you recall, the basic construct of the Fastener Distribution Index is that anything north of 50 means that the distribution space is expanding. Anything south of 50 suggests that it's contracting. Well, you'll be happy to know that the FDI in April was at 53.8. So again, well above the mark that represents expansion for the fastener distribution industry, which tells us that April looked a little bit better than March in terms of in terms of how the folks who responded to the survey felt about the business conditions. So I think that that's a positive reading. However, now that we're building up a little bit of this history, it should be pointed out that 53.8 reading in April is below the 55.9 reading in March and the similar 55.9 reading in February. So again, this is how we read this index. It is a positive number north of 50, but it does seem that the respondents to the survey found that the momentum in April was not quite what they had seen in March and February, and that generally speaking, I would argue that this reading is a good one, but suggests that we're not starting Q2 quite as robustly as the first quarter played out. Now, one tries to look into these trends, and as you know, Mike, we keep many components to the FDI. It's one index that's comprised of several pieces, and for the most part, most of the pieces are still pointing to some pretty good end market conditions. For instance, customer inventories. The respondents still tended to feel that customer inventories are still too low. Sales were at about 55. So again, north of that 50, that key 50 reading. So, I want to emphasize there's nothing wrong with a 53.8, but it does appear that perhaps the month of April was not quite as robust as what we saw in the first quarter. The outlook statement, that all-important outlook statement, I think you can sort of look at that as having been relatively comparable to the April FDI, in that a lot of people are still looking 6 months out and saying business conditions look like they're going to be better. In fact, 62% of respondents still believe that the outlook 6 months from today is brighter than it is today. And again, that's a very good reading. But bear in mind that it's probably the lowest reading of the 4 months that we have tracked this index. So to sum up how we look at the FDI in April, it was a good month, a month that suggests that there continues to be growth in the distribution industry, but perhaps a little bit slower than what we had gotten used to begin the year.
And so the results are still positive. They're just not as positive as they were last month and the month before, but no cause for alarm, in other words.
No, I don't think there's any cause for alarm. Look, you have to accommodate a certain amount of wiggle in the numbers, and remember what we're trying to emulate the FDI off of. We're trying to emulate the FDI off of the National PMI Index, which is a broad manufacturing index. One of the things I thought was interesting is that the broad national PMI actually strengthened in April, in contrast to what we saw with the Fastener Distributor Index in April. And perhaps that means that capital spending is getting better, and therefore there's a lot of larger orders that are going direct to OEMs rather than going through distribution. Again, that wouldn't suggest that there's a problem with distributors. It would just suggest that maybe the economy's gotten to the point where there's some greater strength in other pockets. So again, I don't think that there's anything in this index that suggests that the overall economic situation is anything other than positive at this time. But we came off a very, very strong Q1. Typically, when you get to this stage of the economic cycle, and we are in the third year of an economic expansion, at this stage of the cycle, frankly, I think you're happy when your index readings are between 52 and 55. To run north of 55 for any period of time, 3 years into an expansion, that would be unusual and unique. And so, no, I think that listeners should not read too much into the fact that the FDI fell off a little bit in April versus March. It is still indicative of a decent growth environment for them.
Right, 4 straight months of positive numbers north of the 50 mark.
Yep.
In March, the FDI was pointing to a possibility of a trend towards better pricing and or margins in the fastener distributor industry. Did this trend take hold in April?
It wasn't just in March. It was also in February. In fact, as we've been doing this survey, we have seen, the potential taking of price getting a little bit better. I will say that in April, you continue to see the bias towards taking some price, but it wasn't quite at the same level as March, which I think that if the sentiment is a little bit softer, as we saw from the broad FDI index, then maybe the willingness to go out on a limb to take price, that also might be a bit softer. Now, I will say this, however. After we talked about the February and March readings pointing to perhaps there being a little bit more impetus to take price, the industry's biggest participant, Fastenal, in their conference call announcing their Q1 earnings, they talked a little bit about how they really hadn't been taking much in the way of price over the past few quarters, and that even though there hasn't been significant raw material inflation, there's been enough that there's been a compounding effect where the raw material inflation has slowly built up and they haven't been taking as much pricing, and it sounds like they actually are sort of going forward and maybe getting a little bit more aggressive or focused on making sure that they're offsetting raw materials through price. So again, here is a case where something that we had been reading into the index for a couple of months really manifested itself in the public statements of the industry's largest player. And again, I think it's an indication that the FBI is providing some insight into what's taking place into the fastener distribution industry.
Well, that's good to hear. And the more data that you get and to build off of, the more informative I think these numbers will be. Now, each month you do a supplemental question, and this time around you ask people to identify which markets are best suited for incremental investment. What were you hearing from the respondents?
Well, I would say that in this case, it's a lot of people expanding within their comfort zone. The top response from 20% of the folks that responded to the question was that they were trying to expand within the general industrial and job shop market. Now, that is a varied market, very diverse, and so it's not difficult to envision how somebody might be addressing a certain portion of it, not another portion of it, and going in that direction. But, when it comes down to it, the vast majority of people that respond to this survey are already in the general industrial pot, and so there would appear to be a certain degree of spreading out, but really within an area that they already know relatively well. So it doesn't appear to me to be one where they're taking a huge degree of risk and trying to get into something which is brand new. I would say also that the second biggest response was the automotive and heavy-duty truck market. Again, an area that I suspect a lot of people are in directly or indirectly, so does not represent a huge risk in terms of knowing how to address those markets. So what I'm not necessarily seeing is a lot of folks that are pushing into something that is brand new, but really looking to make more graduated steps into areas where they that are really tangential to what they already do. But when we look at the leading responses, as we indicated, general industrial and job shops are certainly there. Automotive and heavy-duty truck is certainly there. Electronics, I think, got decent response, as did oil and gas and petrochemical type markets. So not a lot of surprises in that one. I am happy to say that we did not get a lot of folks that were not looking to expand into new markets. So I've been a big proponent that the economy is in such a state right now that anybody participating in the space really should be looking to expand and grow, and we're not getting a lot of folks saying we're really not looking to do that at this time.
So no indication of people taking their cash and hoarding it for
I don't see a lot of signs of retrenchment within the fastener distribution industry right now.
That's good to hear. That's a good sign. That's positive for the long-term outlook as well. Now, I
think it is, and recall, if you will, we did a survey a couple of months ago, also asking, not only really asking where they were putting those resources, and there were very few responses that did not that indicated that they were not investing their capital. The vast majority of folks, if you remember in our March supplemental, the vast majority of folks were in fact reallocating capital
to grow. New markets are only one source of growth. So, I mean, those folks that weren't doing new markets in the last survey, they may be talking instead about the same markets, but increasing SKUs. You know, opening new branches to address new markets in different geographies. So there's a lot of ways to skin the cat. The April one really spoke just to those folks that are looking into new markets. But, you know, I think going back to the March supplemental, there aren't a lot of companies that are opting out of the investment game in fastener distribution right now. That's a good thing.
And at the last Fully Threaded Radio episode, right before it came on, we had the Amazon supply story broke and got a lot of attention, and we've had a couple weeks to digest it. And I know you've done some research, and you know, here's an example of a gigantic retailer taking a look and some investment in the fastener industry. Do you have anything that you can tell us about the Amazon supply situation?
Well, I think so. And the funny thing is, I think that the Amazon supply announcement was taken as a significant event within the investment community that I deal with. In fact, the big distributors really took it on the chin for a few days following Amazon Supply's announcement that they were coming onto the market. Grainger, Fastenal, MSC all came down. But when I sort of dig into this and speak to folks I know who, you know, either supply or use Amazon Supply at this point, as your listeners know, it's not like Amazon Supply is brand spanking new. They've been there for a few years. I do think that the rollout of Amazon Supply probably does represent something more than business as usual. I think that Amazon to this point has sort of been experimenting with the idea of industrial supplies. No doubt that's what your listeners have seen in the marketplace at this time. And I would probably take this rollout seriously in the sense that by rolling this out formally this way for consumption by the investment community and such, it probably has developed a degree of maturity that maybe your listeners haven't competed against before. So there's been a tendency, I think, to sort of be dismissing it as just a rebranding. I think it's probably more than that. But when it comes down to it, I think that the Amazon supply model can really only address a certain demographic. And some of the investment community assume that it's going to be any sale that's done through the internet is now fair game for AmazonSupply.com. And I don't think that that's right either, because I think in the case of a Grainger or an MSC, a lot of the guys that use the internet also use other services, whether that be vending, whether that be customer expertise, et cetera, and that's really the point, which is that any distributor that adds value beyond basic break bulking and fulfillment, you know, they're going to be providing something that Amazon Supply, I can't imagine, will be able to provide, certainly no time soon. So when you throw in the learning curve issues, the fact that there's going to be a lot of services and product knowledge that they can't compete with, what seems pretty clear to me is that a embedded fastener distributor would have to try pretty hard not to get into a market where they can avoid Amazon Supply. I think there's a niche for Amazon Supply, but I think it's going to be your, small customer, do-it-yourselfer that's buying a lot of other stuff on Amazon Supply and doesn't need a lot of service or knowledge and can just pick the thing up on AmazonSupply.com as well. But that tends not to be the demographic that your average industrial distributor goes after, because that's just, there's not a lot of value add in that sale. You can't command the type of margin that you become accustomed to. So, as I look through this, I tend to think that it's probably more than just a rebranding. I think it's probably a maturity of the model that we need to take seriously. But I believe that it is very easy for a distributor, for a bona fide industrial distributor, to avoid Amazon Supply simply by staying out of the commodity low value add demographic where frankly most try to get away from to begin with. So it's possible you could run into them and it could be a problem, but it shouldn't be that difficult to sort of avoid them. The market's too big, it's too fragmented. At this point, I think that there's room for everybody involved.
So it sounds like it might be the people like the DIY stores might have a little bit more to be worried about than the big distributors.
Well, certainly, national accounts are probably not going to use a lot of this because national accounts have such varied supply chains and supply models that I just don't see a national account. So if one considers the most sophisticated buyer to be those large national accounts, I think that they're right out. When you sort of begin to go down levels of sophistication and you get down towards the types of customers that have relatively narrower needs and therefore know exactly what their needs are and aren't looking to be informed on how perhaps their choices could be made more productive or effective, yeah, I think that's the customer that Amazon could go after. The guy who, we spoke to one fellow who says, look, I'm on Amazon all the time. 95% of the time it's for something else other than industrial supplies. But since I'm on it anyway, you know what? I'm going to pick up what I need to for my industrial supplies as well. Well, that customer is very well versed in Amazon.com. They are not looking to increase the productivity of their spend. And that is a demographic Amazon Supply can I think can address. But I don't think that it's going to cause us to throw away what have been years of trends towards manufacturers asking distributors to do more, not less. It's not going to throw away years of a trend towards consolidating your spend, not fragmenting it. I just don't think Amazon Supply brings enough to the table that's going to make people throw away long-established trends among your more sophisticated purchasers. So the key, I think, for the sort of incumbent fastener distributor is simply to make sure that they are adding value to the sale, because in that they know that Amazon won't be competing with them.
Now you had mentioned that several stocks took a beating when this was announced. Have those prices come back?
The prices have bounced back a little bit. I do think that some of the concern around the Amazon Supply has perhaps faded off a bit. So that was kind of the flavor of the day for 3 or 4 days, and now we're sort of over that and we're moving on to the next thing. But no, so I think that the Amazon Supply concerns have backed off a little bit, but the stocks have not fully come back. I mean, Fastenal, as an example, Fastenal has come down from around $55 per share just in late March, and I think it's hugging $44 right now. So you've seen some names that were very high flyers during 2011 come off a fair bit.
And do you see any other activities going on? I mean, we've talked about vending being rolled out and things like that. Is that taking hold with some of these people?
I think that that's a great question because, again, the perception between what investors think of something and what non-investors think of something here is a bit different. One of the reasons I think Fastenal in particular has come down harder since late March than, say, their peers Grainger or MSC Industrial is in part because I think investors have grown a little disappointed with the vending solution. As you know, and as your listeners know, Fastenal has been very aggressive to the market, saying we're going to place vending machines. It's a land grab. We're going to be the first and most aggressive ones to the market. It's going to be sticky. We're going to lock in the market. We're going to be able to consolidate market share. Investors, I think, really embraced that message, and the stock fared extraordinarily well. And I think that message is in large part why that's true. I think that the message has begun to fall a little bit flat of late, not because they haven't been able to place a lot of vending machines. They've placed a lot of vending machines. I think that they were around 4,000 in Q1 vending machines into the market, maybe more. I think that they're running probably north of 2,500 vending machines so far this quarter. So they're placing a lot of vending machines. They're filling those vending machines. They're selling through those vending machines. It's penetrating the market for them. But what you haven't seen out of Fastenal, I think, is their growth rates accelerate as a result of those vending machines. And I think that investors became so enamored with the idea of vending accelerating growth that they focused on the gross benefit of vending, i.e. the sales of product through vending have been growing very quickly, but they weren't focusing on the net impact of vending, which is if you're going to sell something through a vending machine and focus on placing vending machines and incent people to sell through vending machines, you're not going to open as many stores. You're not going to incent them to sell in this other means. And so the net impact of vending has not been as dramatic, perhaps, as investors thought or had hoped. And I think that's a big reason why Fastenal stock has come down. Now, I should put a cautionary sentence here only because no one should read this to suggest that vending is not an effective model for the channel, because I think that it is. We wrote a report probably a year ago talking about what kind of market share the big distributors gain. And what we found is that if industrial production in the U.S. were flat, we think that Fastenal would still enjoy revenue growth of around 10% just by penetration of the market share gains. That is the best in the industry. Grainger was probably 4 to 6%. MSC was probably 8 to 10%. My belief is that vending will allow Fastenal to continue to maintain that market share, that rate of market share gain. And so, it certainly, as an industry participant, they can look at what's happened to the stock in recent weeks and sort of, maybe have a bit of a smile across their face as the biggest player in the space, trips up a little bit. But they should not read that to mean that vending doesn't work. I think vending is going to be an effective way to get to the customer that will allow customers that will allow Fastenal to sustain what has been an industry-leading rate of market share gain. And that obviously is a threat for the smaller players in the space that they have to continue to be aware of.
Right, Fastenal, they're not gonna relax, but your point earlier about they're gonna sell more maybe through vending and that it's not gonna change the actual demand of fasteners being used in the market. They can't impact that. They can just grab more market share than other people are getting, and because they're aggressive and in all the different venues.
Well, that's right, and they're not necessarily selling a lot of fasteners in vending machines, right? The piece of the business that runs the risk of being stolen, if you will, or won away perhaps, is really the gloves and more of the MRO supplies. So, we have a lot of folks that respond that they're not all fasteners. I mean, a lot of what they do is fasteners, but, that MRO spend is a significant piece of what goes through those vending machines. And that's where there's a fair degree of risk that you can lose that. The fasteners tend to be much more of a successful bin stocking type model than a vending model. But yeah, I think it's as I said before, I think it's easy to let a smile creep across our face because Fastenal stock has maybe come off a little bit, and maybe Wall Street's enthusiasm for vending might be on the wane. But that should not be interpreted to mean that vending is not effective. I think vending is an effective way to go to the market. I think it has allowed them to gain market share. Customers using vending machines are growing at a much faster rate than the business as a whole. And so, it is certainly to a smaller distributor who may not have the same degree of resources to be able to invest in the vending machine, got to find another way to compete around it because vending's not going away. It's right now, I suspect it's more effective in the fastener market than it is in the investment market, but it's still effective.
Very good. Well, once again, you've given us a lot to think about, and with the Fastener Distributor Index, and I want to remind listeners that these results in detail, as well as the FDI trending chart, can be found in your regular column that appears in the pages of Fastener Technology International. The next one will appear in the June issue, which can be read in print or online at fastenertech.com. So, Holden, thanks again for joining us on the Fastener News Report.
I appreciate you having me. I'll speak to you next month.
That was Holden Lewis of BB&T Capital Markets. Next up, today's top Fastener Newsmaker headlines. Carpenter Technology is reporting a 16% rise in sales revenue and a 70% jump in operating profit, as well as demand for titanium fastener materials at a level higher than previous production peaks. Due to high demand, Queenin Furnaces in Niagara Falls, Ontario, Canada, has added a second plant facility in Port Colborne, Ontario. The new plant will be used for making and assembling industrial furnaces. Queenin serves several markets, including fastener manufacturing. Paul DeFalco, a longtime employee of Computer Insights in Bloomingdale, Illinois, has been named Supply Chain Integration Manager for the supplier of software for tracking fasteners. Paul will be in charge of several programs, including the Brighton Best Connection, e-commerce interfaces, Fastener Clearinghouse, and the Electronic Data Interexchange. Circle Bolt and Nut, a national fastener distributor with 7 locations throughout the United States, has promoted James Castellino to the position of president and CEO. Jim Sperling, the founder of Circle Bolt and Nut, has recently retired and will be retained in a part-time consulting position. The Ohio Rod Products division of the Elgin Fastener Group has recently added a Lewis straightening and cut machine to its manufacturing lineup so that it can increase its capacity of long fasteners in 3/8 inch, half-inch, 5/8 inch, and 3/4 inch diameters. Ohio Rod can now make these rods as long as 156 inches. And our top newsmaker headline is that the Board of Directors of the National Fastener Distributor Association voted unanimously to retain Vicki Lester to provide executive management for the NFDA. The transition of the NFDA office from Smith Buckland in Chicago to Lester Management Services in Los Alamitos, California, will occur during the next few months. Vicki and her team also provide management services to the Pacific West Fastener Association and its Fastener Training Institute. Finally, let's turn to the back page to talk about the state of the teenage workforce in the United States. It's that time of year again when teenagers are looking for summer jobs, and there are 2 relevant stories in the news this week. Number 1, the percentage of teenagers in the workforce is at an all-time low, only about 25% compared to 35% in 2007, and around or over 50% in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. The other story is that the President of the United States has announced hundreds of thousands of summer jobs and other employment opportunities for the youth, defined as 16 to 24-year-olds, another group which set a record last year for having its lowest percentage level of employment since numbers started being calculated in 1948. Once again, we have a negative trend, with social and economic origins being magically solved by the all-knowing, all-powerful, and all-resourceful federal government. Some may argue that the government has caused this negative trend, and I would agree that it has helped, but an attitude of entitlement and a focus on perpetual entertainment starting around the turn of the millennium are also to blame. I was a teenager in the 1970s and 1980s, and I can think of nearly 10 different part-time jobs that I had from age 13 to age 20, none of which originated from a government program, and 0 which were especially entertaining. All, however, generated positive cash flows. I think we're seeing the first fruits of this trend in the Occupy movement, and we're going to be in deep trouble if this trend is not reversed by a focus on free enterprise and personal responsibility. This has been Mike McNulty of Fastener Technology International bringing you the Fastener News Report. Remember to send your news, pictures, comments, corrections, and complaints to me at mcnulty@fastenertech.com. The editorial deadline for the next issue is May 18th.
What color will these Stellfast monkeys be this year? We'll ask Don Haggerty. Also, what's in store for the NFDA? Jay Queenin has a comment on Fully Threaded Radio.
This season, the House of Beacon is pleased to offer its latest collection of nice threads, the Beacon Machine Screw. Sleek and metallic, sturdy and sharp, the Beacon Machine Screw is a revolution in cutting-edge style and clean lines, offering a modern twist on classic proportions. As with all our collections, thread forming, thread cutting, high-low tapping, SEMs and sheet metal screws, the Beacon Machine Screw may also be complemented by a RoHS-compatible coat, an absolute must in Europe and all other discerning corners of the globe. Don't be the last member of your industry to use Beacon Machine Screws. Call 800-669-2658 to request a full catalogue of all our nice threads. Or have one of our highly polished representatives assist you in finding your unique size and style. And should you fail to find the piece that suits you perfectly, Beacon Fasteners will proudly tailor it to your exact specifications. Be the envy of all your competitors with stylish new Beacon Machine Screws. Beacon Fasteners and Components. Nice threads.
When top quality and outstanding service are at the top of your list in fastener suppliers, turn to Stellfast. Since 1976, Stellfast has grown to become an industry-leading importer and manufacturer of the highest quality industrial fasteners, specialty items, and automotive parts. Our array of facilities across North America and in Asia, along with full quality control labs and ISO 9001-2008 certifications, ensure the highest quality parts, and at Stellfast, they're delivered with undisputed service excellence. We're family-run and dedicated to your success. Our customers have come to depend on the expertise of our staff and the quality of our products. We also offer a wide range of secondary services to meet some of the toughest requirements you might have. Contact Stellfast today through our website at www.stellfast.com and put us to work for you. Stellfast. Service you deserve, people you trust.
You know your screws and your brews. That's why now there's a beer brewed just for the fastener industry. That's right. You drove all day to make that call. The beer you'll pour, it must be tall. Yeah. Old rusty bowl. Yeah. You sold those screws and bolts and nuts, and now it's time to fill your guts, that's clear. Old rusty boat, yeah. Forget about cold filtered, old rusty's cold-headed, for fastener people just like you. It's the beer that could have made Rockford, Illinois famous, until we had to start importing some of the pure 100% natural ingredients that go into every batch. It's got that full threaded flavor, but with a third less oxides, so you can keep enjoying Old Rusty long after the warehouse or show floors close down for the day. That's also why Old Rusty's available in quarter kegs and now in convenient pallets too. Keep it flowing, house. Old Rusty Bowl.
This is Bryn Stock from Spencer Products, your source for threaded inserts, blind rivets, and huck bolts. You're listening to Fully Threaded Radio.
Don Haggerty, we're here at the NFDA, sitting in the exhibitor room, and looks like it's pretty well attended, but I think what a lot of people really want to know about Stellfast is what color are the famous Stellfast monkeys going to be at this year's NIFS show? Don?
Whoa, that's a question I am not at liberty to answer at all. As usual, it will be a total surprise.
Well, the room's buzzing about that, Don. Anything I can do to kind of get a hint at least?
No comment.
We're here at the conclusion of the spring conference of the NFDA, and we're talking with the incoming president, Jay Queenin. He's also the president of Specialty Bolt and Screw. Well, welcome, Jay, and congratulations on becoming the president of the NFDA.
Well, thanks, Eric, for allowing me the opportunity to talk to you today. I know we've had a great couple of days down here in Georgia. It's the location has been incredible. The content has been great. We had the opportunity to talk about the Fastener Distributor Index with yourself and Holden, which is just a great new tool in the fastener industry. And I think that it was received very well, by all the attendees here. And we're happy to say that attendance at this meeting has surpassed the attendance at last meeting, and it's just been a successful conference all around.
Yeah, thanks for mentioning about the FDI. Holden did a great job. Well, during your message yesterday to the conference, you were suggesting that the NFDA is recommitting to moving forward and driving the NFDA aggressively in the direction of bringing added value to all the members. What kinds of things are you talking about?
Well, this is an exciting time for NFDA. What I tried to articulate yesterday was, kind of the four main principles that we're moving forward with. First of all, the NFDA is the organization that brings leaders in the fastener industry together. We've been doing it for many years, and we continue to do it to this day, and we look forward to doing it in the future. The second thing is, we do provide the tools for owners and executives of fastener companies to make sure that the profitability of their company increases. Yesterday we had a great economist who spoke with us on many occasions. I think everyone walked out of the room with some very practical advice to take back to their companies. Third, I think, and this is kind of a new direction for us in the NFDA, is that you're going to see much more of a focused effort on trying to coordinate with other regional associations and other fastener groups in our industry. That is definitely a departure from the past, but it's something that we're excited about, and we have some challenges ahead of us, but we know we'll be successful as we go forward on that project. And finally, I think you're going to see a much more active voice on the national level from the NFDA. Oftentimes, we had a tendency to focus on national issues that divided us, but there's so many issues that both associates and distributors, have in common, where we can advocate on the national level for policies that will better our business. So that's the direction I laid out yesterday, and again, it's an exciting time, and we're looking forward to taking that direction into the future.
Well, I'll be looking forward to seeing what kinds of issues you identify to advocate for. I know that's going to be a little challenging, and I know there's a couple that are probably going to be more contentious than others. So good luck with that. Now, there was another major headline at the spring conference this time around, and that's the change in executive management. So Vicki Lester is taking the reins, and people know and love Vicki from her work with the Pac West, and that might actually be falling into your strategy of aligning more closely with the regionals, but I have a suspicion there's a lot more to that whole thing than has been revealed so far. But what can you tell us about this change in executive management, Jay?
Well, we are very excited to have Vicki on board. I know that she has a long history in the fastener industry. She's very well respected. She will do a great job for the NFDA. We felt that she was the right person at the right time to bring us forward. And I know I speak for all of our members. When I say that we are very fortunate to have somebody of Vicki's caliber working with us. We have our challenges, just like every organization, but we're confident that with Vicki pushing things in the direction we want to go, that we will continue to grow our organization and be successful in the future. So you'll be hearing a lot from Vicki in the next couple of years. It was great. I had my first press release sent to me last Thursday, so I think you're going to see a much more active association with Vicki at the helm.
Well, I'm guessing she's going to come out of the gates at full speed, so good call on that one. There was also something mentioned at the conference session, the main session yesterday, and I wanted to ask you about it, referring to the Vegas show. So last year at the Vegas show, NFDA, you kind of co-located your fall meeting, and I guess the impression was that wasn't as successful as you were hoping. I didn't actually know that. I didn't understand that. What was it about the meeting that didn't work out to your hopes?
Well, here's the situation. The one thing that is great about this board is that we're willing to try new things, and we will continue to try new things. Some of them will work, and some of them will not work. And the feedback we received from our members was that there are just too many events during that week to try to put something else on the schedule. We listened to the associates who had some difficulty trying to attend our event as well as do the setup. The distributors had many meetings set up with their suppliers around that time. So it's a concept that we tried. I'm not going to say it was a failure, but we did take the input from our members, and we're going to go in a different direction. So we hope that for 2012 in the fall, Our expectation and our hope is that we will do an event down in Scottsdale. Nothing's finalized yet, but we hope to have that going. And then we will do another event in the spring of 2013 at a location to be determined. So again, it's an exciting time. You're going to see some different content. Some new ideas that we apply to our conferences going forward. But the bottom line is that as a board, we will try new things. We will, we're not afraid to push the envelope, and we will be very active in the future.
If you're not ready to make an announcement on this, I understand completely, but given what you just said about the dynamics of the new board, has free beer for all members been considered?
Absolutely. And I will say that, one of the ideas we talked about in Vegas is that, we will have a couple kegs at our booth.
Yeah.
So anybody wants to come down to the NFDA booth in Las Vegas, we will be providing some beverages. So we look forward to seeing you there.
Jay Queenin, the incoming president of the NFDA. You heard it here, folks, and from all accounts, this is an organization that's moving in the right direction. Thank you so much, Jay.
Thank you, Eric. Thank you.
Hello, this is Shar Cooper with Cable Tie Express. I'm here at the NFDA meeting in Atlanta, Georgia, having a wonderful time, certainly promoting cable ties, and certainly would love to be your supplier for cable ties. Feel free to give us a call or check out our website, www.cabletieexpress.com. And just remember, if things can't be done with duct tape, they can always be done with cable ties.
We're at the NFDA Spring Conference, and Mr. Robbie Gilchrist is making a return appearance here on Fully Threaded. Thanks for joining us again, Robbie. Now, yesterday I found it very interesting that one of the economists mentioned a story, and he was talking about the fact that it's possible that funeral directors might have a place if economies get tough again. And I think that reminded me of a story you told me back at CIFA. I wonder if you could share that with me.
Sure, I'll be glad to share it with you. The NFDA was meeting a number of years ago. I'm thinking it was probably mid-90s sometime, 94, 95, and we were out in Idaho at the Coeur d'Alene Resort, along with another group of NFDA members, a completely different organization. Back in that day, the NFDA on their closing party nights used to have a theme night, and this particular theme night was a 50s party. So everybody came dressed up in, their poodle skirts for the girls and bobby socks and tennis shoes, and the guys had their T-shirts on, their sleeves rolled up. But one particular NFDA member, Bill Howard, that worked with Rev Car Fasteners, came dressed up as a very popular person at the time, Elvis Presley. So Elvis was making his rounds of the NFDA group, and Elvis had to make a pit stop. So Elvis and I meandered down the hall past the other organization that was having a meeting there that night. And on our way back, the door opened up, and out pops the other NFDA group, which stands for National Funeral Directors Association. So they walk in, they walk out, see Elvis, they grab Elvis, and they grab his escort, being me, drag us into their meeting, and we're walking around the NFDA, the National Funeral Association's meeting, glad handing Elvis, and they're all believing that Elvis is still alive. So we had a good time with them for about 15 minutes before we went back to our own meeting.
Now, you didn't see any of these other NFDA members offering their embalming services or anything, did you?
No, not that particular night, but we did pick up a few cards for future reference, though.
Yeah, and something tells me there was a little embalming going on that night. What do you think of the meeting here? We've got a little bit of a shot in the arm during this spring meeting, 2012. What are your impressions?
I think the meeting's been along real good. My theory has always been that if you come and participate, then you'll get something out of it. If you don't come and participate, then you won't get anything out of it. So those that are here, I think, will walk away with a very productive conference, and looking forward to the next one quite probably in the fall sometime.
Well, it was pointed out there's about 2,500 distributors potentially that could be members of associations, and one of the things that the revitalized NFDA is going to try to do is get a whole bunch more of those involved in the association movement, and NFDA being one of them. Well, thanks so much, Robbie. You're a lifetime member of the NFDA for good reason, and look forward to seeing you at the next one.
Thank you very much. Good talking to you again.
Hi, this is Mike Henry in Atlanta for the NFDA. Having a great time today. See you at the bar later.
finish in the money, you gotta fish till the end, which is coming right up. Thanks for listening, everyone. It's Fully Threaded.
For a selection of hundreds of thousands of fasteners, check out your local Fastenal store or Fastenal.com. We can stock domestic or internationally sourced product locally and keep your bin stock filled for you at no additional expense. We are a 9001-2008 certified company that's made a huge investment in quality control so you don't have to. And if you can't find it on our shelf, we can make it for you at the quantity you need at one of our many manufacturing facilities. Learn more by contacting your local Fastenal store or visiting Fastenal.com today.
This is Sue Rice with the FCH team. It's my job to make sure that as an FCH member, you receive the highest possible benefit from your participation in the network. Did you know that once you're logged into FCH, you have access to exclusive search tools, site statistics, and tracking information about your inventory and source finder inquiries? It's all just a click away, and I'm happy to walk you through it. If it's time to refresh your inventory, don't worry. We'll run your listings through our scrubber software and get you up and running in a very short time. If you can attach a spreadsheet to an email, you can list inventory on FCH. We can also show you how to optimize your listings to attract the most hits for your type of fastener. Send email to Sue at fastenersclearinghouse.com and let me help you get the most from the FCH sourcing network. I look forward to hearing from you soon.
It's almost time for the biggest fastener event of the summer. This is Matt DeLauder of SWD Incorporated, current president of the Midwest Fastener Association, inviting you to this year's MWFA Fastener Expo. The show takes place on June 25th at Medina Banquets in Addison, Illinois, just a short drive from O'Hare Airport, right in the heart of the fastener industry. This will be a tabletop show and the largest regional event of its kind this year. For the show, we will have a brief 2-hour workshop, Safeguards Against Ordering Wrong Parts and Minimizing Risks. There will also be a seminar in the afternoon, Sharpen Your Leadership Skills, sponsored by Wi-Fi. After the expo, you'll want to stay around for the annual Fastener Bash for some of the best networking opportunities this year. Also this year, we've added a new event that should be a real blast, 4 holes of glow-in-the-dark golf. I don't think you'll want to miss this. Come and be part of this unique opportunity and play golf at night with some of your best fastener buddies. For the more serious golfers, the 60th annual MWFA Golf Tournament and Awards Dinner will take place the following day, June 26th, at Eaglewood Resort. For more details and registration information on both events, see the MWFA website at www.mwfa.net. That's mwfa.net. Don't miss the MWFA Fastener Expo and Annual Golf Tournament on June 25th and 26th in Addison, Illinois. I'll see you there.
These guys aren't screwing around much. Brian and Eric, Fully Threaded Radio, Internet Talk Radio for the fastener industry.
Hi, Bob O'Brien of Certified Products in Chicago. You're listening to Fully Threaded Radio, the largest proponent of free beer in the fastener industry.
Brian and Eric, back with you to wrap up yet another odyssey into online talk radio for the fastener industry.
Is that in the Iliad and the Odyssey?
Well, I suppose you could say there are a few Homeric epic qualities about Fully Threaded Radio, yes.
Such as?
Well, how about the tale told by Robbie Gilchrist about the 2 NFDAs meeting at the same time, at the same hotel? That had a sort of bard-like spin to it, wouldn't you say?
Mate, I think that's a little bit of a stretch.
Okay, probably true. But the first time I heard him tell that, the circumstances were probably a little bit better for storytelling. That was at the CIFA meeting after the reception dinner. So,
Yeah, well, I could see how the mood might have been right for telling old Fastener stories.
Yes, old Fastener meetings, many stories were told. People were feeling pretty good. And, speaking of that, there is a little Irish pub at the Chateau Elan where the NFDA meeting was held, and you would have appreciated the Scotch list. It was first rate. So also, they had one of your old favorites, Brian, one we haven't seen for a while, Talisker.
Oh, yeah, okay. Yep.
So it also turns out that our friend Mike Henry is quite the single malt aficionado as well. I didn't know that. He was there representing Copper State at the meeting, and we had a good conversation about some of our favorites.
So did you introduce him to some of the Isla whiskies?
No, he knows all about it. He doesn't need any education from me, believe me. We're just comparing notes, and he likes the good stuff, believe me.
Cool, okay.
And for that reason and many others, it was a great meeting, and I think all of the associations are seeing a renewed interest and participation. And if your company has been on the sidelines lately, it might be a good time to take a look and see what organizations like NFDA, CIFA, MWFA, and the others have to offer. Might be a good time to jump in. And it was good of our friends at the NFDA to jump into the interviews for the segment today. So let's thank our guests, and they were Don Haggerty of Stelfast, Robbie Gilchrist of Capital Marketing, Shar Cooper of Cable Ties Express, and NFDA President Jay Queenin. He was sharing his vision for the association with us. Also, Joe Peplinski of Beacon Fasteners and Components, and the Mel Kirsner winning team captain, Kelly Lehman. And as always, Mike McNulty and Holden Lewis did a fine job on the Fastener News Report today, and bringing us up to date on the April FDI. Hey, if your company is in the fastener distribution game, I hope you'll consider joining us in the monthly FDI survey and add your voice to the index.
Right, and just remember, it's just been tested to be fully compatible with an iPad. In fact, you can do your surveys from on the road.
Yeah, good point, Bri. And thanks to all of our sponsors today, and they were Stelfast, Beacon Fasteners and Components, Volt Industrial Plastics, Fastenal, and Fastener Technology International Magazine. Hey, our email address is ftr@fullythreaded.com. Get with us anytime. We'd love to hear your comments. Also, we're out there on Twitter under the handle Fully Threaded. And, of course, check out our Facebook page, and we'll have some supporting links from the show up there, and you can send us messages or observations or comments. We'd like to see it that way, too. Hey, Brian, I didn't mention that at the NFDA meeting, I ran into our friends Mark Klosek and Mark Alperin from Vertex Distribution. These guys know an amazing amount about stainless, and they're going to join us on FTR 46 for a conversation about that, and I'm guessing we're going to be delving into some untouched territory for Fully Threaded, so you don't want to miss this, folks.
Mark was one of the early people to actually sign up with FCH when we first started up. So we've had long-time dealings with Vertex Distribution.
That's right. They just renewed, so they've been with us about 6 years now, so we really appreciate that and looking forward to this conversation.
Yeah, I always catch up with them and just say hello at the Las Vegas shows too.
And Bri, I was talking to Jig and Joe Peplinski at the top of the show about our recent success in the Bass Tournament. And you'll be interested to know that there's a twist to that story involving an iPhone.
Okay. Tell me.
Yes. So in a tournament, if you're having a good day, you reach a certain point where you have to start upgrading your fish. In other words, you have to release the smaller ones and replace them with bigger ones if everything's going to plan. So while you're doing that, you have to record the size of these fish. Otherwise, you get all confused. And, this is a game of ounces. So we had what's called a culling system, and it has a pen that you write on this erasable board. Well, the pen was bone dry. So here we were with all these fish coming in the boat, and we really had no way to track it. Suddenly it occurred to me, why not use the iPhone? And that's exactly what we did. Worked like a charm.
Right, the famous little notepad app on it.
Yep, totally free, but invaluable.
Right, I have used that for unusual things like remembering the lengths and dimensions of cabinets and things that I need to take around the place.
Hey, in a pinch. Now, we all know about the iPhone's waterproof ability, so you got to be careful when you have it out there in the boat. But, hey, man,
Right.
It's safe the day.
Well, that just goes to show again, you should always be prepared when you're in the boat, always have the right equipment, and always have your iPhone and your NFDA breadboard.
Okay, I get the iPhone, but the breadboard, what's that?
Well, for guys like you and Joe, you're shooting to win, to be in the money.
Yeah.
Well, that's a lot of bread.
That'll put this episode of Fully Threaded Radio in the live well, folks. We're heading for the scales.
Oh, how about into the bread box?
Enough.
See you later, everybody.
For Brian Musker, this is Eric Dudas. Thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you next time.
Fully Threaded Radio is a production of Fastener's Clearinghouse. Music provided by Audionautics.
He's a great American fisherman, he'll fish anywhere. Anywhere there's water, Lord knows he'll be there. He's just like a gypsy, mighty hard to hold. The great American fisherman got fishing in his soul.